She mocked me in front of her friends for not having a job. They didn't know I owned the company they all worked for. Until I fired them. I knew the exact moment she decided I was small. It was in the reflection of a wine glass. Her laugh came first, sharp, effortless, practiced. The kind that cuts clean and leaves no visible blood. "He's figuring things out," she told them. Figuring things out. Her friends smiled with polite cruelty. The kind people reserve for charity cases and stray dogs. I sat at the end of the table in the dim back corner of the restaurant she insisted on choosing. A place too expensive for someone between opportunities. She knew that. That was the point. "So what do you do again?" one of them asked. Before I could answer, she did. "He doesn't, technically." Laughter. Controlled, polite, surgical. I watched her fingers trace the rim of her glass. No ring anymore. She'd stopped wearing it weeks ago. Said it made her feel prematurely committed. I nodded, smiled faintly, played my part. Across the room, a framed certificate hung behind the bar. A quiet detail no one else noticed. The name of the parent corporation etched in silver. Mine. They were all wearing company badges clipped to their purses. They didn't know the unemployed. Man at the end of the table signed their payroll. I said nothing. I was good at saying nothing. Her name is Marissa. She works in marketing. Mid-level, ambitious, always climbing. When we met, she liked that I was mysterious, that I didn't overshare, that I didn't perform masculinity for validation. Over time, mystery became suspicion. Suspicion became disappointment. She started coming home later, always with explanations wrapped too neatly. Client dinners. Networking. Team drinks. Her phone began sleeping face down. Her laughter shifted, less for me, more for someone else in invisible text threads. I never asked. Asking is what powerless men do, I observed. There were small fractures. A new perfume she didn't wear for me. A gym membership she never mentioned. A softness in her voice when she stepped onto the balcony to take a call. One night I heard her whisper, "I can't do this much longer." Silence. Then a man's voice through the speaker. Low, familiar. I'd heard it before in quarterly briefings. "Daniel, Regional Operations Manager, also under me." I didn't interrupt. I didn't confront. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while she whispered promises into the night air. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was administrative. Scheduled, calendar invited. And suddenly her mockery at dinner made sense. She needed me small. Because the version of me she'd constructed in her head was easier to betray. The next morning I went to the office. Not as her boyfriend, as CEO. No one recognized me at first. I rarely visited in person. I preferred distance, efficiency, numbers over faces. I called in HR. Requested internal communication audits. Quietly. Legally. Daniel's email threads were careless. Private dinners labeled as strategy sessions. Expense reports signed with inflated tips at restaurants. Marissa tagged on social media. He wasn't discreet. He was arrogant. I watched security footage from the lobby over the past month. There they were. Elevator doors closing. Her hand on his sleeve. The way she leaned into him when she thought no one important was watching. I printed nothing. Saved everything. At home I remained steady. Cooked dinner. Asked about her day. She rolled her eyes when I mentioned job hunting. "You should really think about something stable," she said. Stable. I almost admired her performance. At night she slept facing away from me. As if already rehearsing departure, I began drafting restructuring plans. Marketing would be consolidated. Operations reviewed. Redundancies identified. 3 positions in particular. Marissa, Daniel, and her closest friend from dinner, Sophie, who'd laughed the loudest. It wasn't personal. It was strategic. I waited for the right moment. Public humiliation requires an audience. The company hosted its annual networking gala 2 weeks later. Marissa insisted I come. "Maybe you'll make connections," she said, adjusting my tie like I was a project. I agreed. The ballroom glittered. Crystal lights, polished floors, people in suits who had memorized my signature but not my face. When the board chair tapped the microphone, the room quieted. "We're honored tonight to formally introduce our founder and CEO." Marissa's smile froze. Who prefers to stay behind the scenes, but has graciously agreed to join us in person. My name echoed through the speakers. Daniel turned pale first. Sophie dropped her champagne flute. Marissa looked at me like she'd never seen me before, which in a way she hadn't. I stepped onto the stage, calm, measured, spoke about growth, vision, accountability. Then I announced restructuring. Certain roles, I said, scanning the room slowly, have demonstrated misaligned priorities. I let silence do the cutting. HR distributed sealed envelopes. Marissa's hands trembled as she opened hers. Daniel didn't. He just stared at me. Finally understanding, afterward she cornered me near the exit. "You knew?" she whispered. I held her gaze. "Yes, nothing more." She searched my face for anger, for pain. I gave her none. At home she tried again. "This is insane. You destroyed my career because you're insecure?" I removed my cufflinks slowly. "Insecure men beg," I said quietly. "I reorganize." Her composure cracked. "You let me believe that I was unemployed?" I nodded. "You needed me to be small." She shook her head, tears threatening but not falling. "You trapped me." "No," I corrected. "You revealed yourself." I placed printed copies of their messages on the table. Highlighted. Time-stamped. Expense reports attached. You confused silence with ignorance. Daniel had already sent 3 apologetic emails. I deleted them without opening. Marissa reached for my arm. I stepped back. I never would have cheated if I'd known that I had power. There it was. The truth. Not love. Not remorse. Power. I walked to the door. "Your things will be packed by tomorrow," I said. Her voice broke behind me. "You're heartless." I paused. "No," I replied softly. "I'm informed." Then I left her standing in the wreckage of her own ambition. The house is quiet now. No balcony whispers. No performative laughter. Just the low hum of air conditioning and the distant city breathing through glass. People think revenge is loud, explosive. But real power is administrative. Documented. Approved. I didn't ruin her life. I removed her access. There's a difference. Sometimes I replay that dinner in my head. The way she smiled while diminishing me. The way her friends nodded along. They thought they were observing a man with no direction. They were evaluating a man who signed their termination letters. I never raise my voice. I never slam doors. I simply adjust structures. And when something no longer aligns, I eliminate it. She wanted me small, so I let her believe it. Until the truth made her insignificant. I didn't lose her. I audited her, and she failed.